Welcome to Skip the Queue, a podcast for people working in or working with visitor attractions. I'm your host, Kelly Molson. In today's episode, I speak with Ant Rawlins, CEO of Navigate Agency, the marketing agency for the tourism and conservation sectors. We discuss how to position your attraction as essential, the number one thing all attraction marketeers need to focus on this year, and a podcast exclusive. Ant shares with us an exciting new initiative, so listen out for news on Wildling. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe on all the usual channels by searching Skip the Queue. And it is so nice to have you on the podcast today. I have to say, I'm so delighted that you're on because you are genuinely one of my favourite speakers to listen to. So I'm thrilled that you're on today, and I know this is going to be a really exciting conversation.
No pressure then.
Absolutely not. I always like to start with a little bit of pressure on. And that takes us very nicely to our icebreaker questions. So, when you were 6, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was 6, it was probably pretty cliche. An archaeologist or a fighter pilot. I'd probably say a fighter pilot more.
Is this Top Gun?
It is Top Gun. It is Top Gun. And I'm pretty sure Top Gun was released when I was 6, and my brother then went into the RAF. So I kind of wanted to be my brother and a fighter pilot, but you know, there you go.
He got there first, basically.
He did.
But actually, archaeology. So that's really interesting because it does kind of fit with some of the stuff that you've done, doesn't it? In a holistic kind of way. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Okay. If you could be in the Guinness World of Records, what record-breaking feat would you attempt?
That's really mean. I have no idea what that would be. I don't think that I'm, going to be in the Guinness Book Record. I've never allowed myself to entertain that.
Do you have like a weird talent?
Not really that we can broadcast. Oh, this is going to sound really silly. It would be best dad.
Oh.
Children that are not necessarily convinced by that, but there you go. The judging panel, we'll see.
Tough critics all round, yes. I'm going to say. Okay, interesting. Thank you. And all right, if you could have 1 extra hour of free time every day, what would you use it for?
Reading. It would be reading, because I really do not enjoy reading at all. I can't stand it. So I would force myself to do that.
That was unexpected. I thought you were going to tell me that you were a bit of a bookworm, but you do consume knowledge. I know that you consume knowledge because you're incredibly knowledgeable, especially about the topics that we talk about today. How do you consume? Are you more of a podcast? Are you more audio?
Very much audio. Again, I don't enjoy reading, but I read a lot. I just find it a really challenging medium through which to get information. It's very one-dimensional, whereas actually, if you can show me a documentary, I'll get a lot more info from that, but that's a huge debate, right? So that's really interesting. So it's a really good answer to the question, and it would be my answer as well, because I don't get time to read, and reading for me is a way of going off into a different world. So whether that's reading something historical or reading something fictional, it just takes me away to a different place for a while. And I've kind of lost that. My time has been sucked up with toddler, so I've kind of lost that a little bit. So that would be a really nice thing to get back to. Honestly, as I said, I don't like reading, and I absolutely never read fiction. It's always nonfiction. It's always work. It's always research papers or documents or business books or how to, be a CEO and not throw yourself off a bridge, that kind of stuff. Rather than, a lovely story. I mean, I've, previously read Wilbur Smith and various stuff like that, but I just don't have the time. So that's what I would do with my hour, Kelly.
Good answer. Thank you for sharing. Right. Unpopular opinion. What have you prepared for us?
Email. I detest email as well. This is not going to be as negative as it sounds. We're getting it out of the way now, so we're going to be super positive going forward. But I hate email. And I was thinking about this. Obviously, running a strategic digital marketing agency, that's professional suicide saying you hate email to a certain degree. But I hate it because it's a terrible thing. It delivers great results, but imagine your email being a letterbox
And through this letterbox, you get information from the government, information from healthcare providers, tax information, essential business correspondence, but also this T-shirt that you don't want, this pair of shoes. I've inherited a lot of different pots of money from foreign countries where I just need to provide my account details and they will release 10% of the 45 million pounds to me. And, your email as the collator of all of this, how do you escape today? Crazy. We need a better system.
You're right. You are right. I don't think this is going to be a massively unpopular opinion, if I'm honest. No, I don't. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I actually know an agency owner who, he's an agency founder, and now runs an agency kind of collective support network. He just doesn't use email at all anymore. He's closed it down. That's it. Just doesn't communicate via it. He'd rather use WhatsApp or Slack or those kind of channels for it. And I think, it's so hard, isn't it? Because it's like a necessary evil.
Yeah.
But the time that it saps away from you is just.
I know. And there's loads of productivity hacks you can activate around it, but goodness me, it's best not to do that. And I do apologize for it being pretty tame, but I had about 1,000 things for you, and I wasn't allowed to say any of them. When I run them past my wife, she's like, "You can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say that." So there we go.
We'll discuss those ones off air.
Definitely.
Okay, right. Founder of Navigate, tourism and conservation marketing agency, fabulous agency. Lots of wonderful things that you do for your clients. What brought you to the world of attractions, tourism and conservation? How did you end up here?
So I studied biology at Bristol, and pretty quickly on my during my degree, I realized there was no way in the planet I wanted to be a biologist. Because fundamentally, my life would be spent staring down a microscope, looking at, I don't know, either sperm or stool samples, which is where a lot of biology originates or comes to at the end. So I kind of thought, I'm not going to do that with my time. So I kind of have always been interested in generally in science. I've got quite a strong science background. All my A levels were science, then obviously a science degree at Bristol. I did a master's in science at Bristol as well, but I kind of thought I wanted to do something on my own and see how I could do. And I just decided to set up a business straight out of university. I'll add a disclaimer here because I often get labelled with this being a very brave decision. It wasn't a brave decision. It was purely a logical decision. I had no money, so I had nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. So you just go for it. What's the worst that could happen to me? Add a little bit more debt to the burgeoning student debt I had anyway. So, set up the company and off you go. It started in a different iteration, but fortunately, as I've learned more about business and people, I've been able to direct that to the things that matter to me. And here we are now, tourism and conservation.
The things that matter. It's really interesting that you set up. I didn't realize that you'd set up so early in your career, actually. And I just come from a conversation about a very, very similar topic. We set up our agency when we were about 24. We'd had a bit of I'd worked in various different places prior to that and never really found anywhere that I settled. But it's exactly the same thing. There was no risk then. It was, okay, well, I need to earn enough money to pay my phone, put some petrol in my car, pay my mum some rent. That's it. It's not a brave decision. It's like, I don't have there's just nothing to lose here. So I may as well just give it a go. It's a really empowering place to be, because now if I was thinking about doing it again, there's a lot more risk, a lot more overheads.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying now. Those are the brave people, the ones that have responsibilities and financial commitments and go, do you know what? I've known this way of life for this amount of time. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to give it a go. I predicted I would not have the courage to do that 10 years down the line. So I thought, I'm just going to do it now.
I love that. Well, I'm glad that you did, because it's brought you to where we are today. And I want to talk a little bit about where we are today. So just from the attractions perspective, it's been a bit of a weird year, hasn't it? 2023. I think
Yeah.
The last few years have been a bit weird, let's face it. They have had a massive whammy throughout the pandemic. Can be open one minute, can't be open the next minute, restrictions, all kinds of stuff going on. And then kind of come through all of that and are smashed in the face with economic chaos, cost of living crisis, war in Ukraine, not really understanding whether visitors are going to be able to afford to come to them this year. And so it feels a little bit like everyone's been deer in the headlights and going, we really don't know what to do. We're absolutely exhausted from the last 2 years. We don't know what to do. And we know that visits are at about 80 or 90% of pre-pandemic levels. What's your take on where we're at the moment and where things are going?
I think your analysis is spot on. That is where we are. It's challenging times. We're finding organizations are taking longer to make decisions because they're cautious, naturally. I'm also finding that there's a bit of a reticence to invest in kind of marketing and revenue generation from the point of view of almost thinking, well, it's not going to be great this year, so let's not spend budget on not having a great year. It's quite upside down thinking, in my opinion, but that is what's happening. And I know this because I speak with clients very openly and honestly. We work with quite a few businesses that we feel a responsibility to turn their fortunes around. The organizations I love working more than anything are where they've got a big problem, a seriously big problem. So a number of our clients last year or the year before might have had to make redundancies, serious stuff, reduction in headcount, reduction in visitor numbers as we know has been happening, and they just want to get back to the levels they were, or even just right the ship. So we get involved and we help them do that, and I'm proud. I feel a very profound sense of pride when we do that, and we do it. We're serious about doing that, and I love it.
You do it, and you do it really well as well. So some of your attraction clients are really bucking this trend. And that's kind of what we're going to focus on today, along with something very exciting, which is coming later. But I want to kind of talk about strategies and methodologies that attractions can implement right now to increase their marketing success. I think this is what they want to hear about. But can you kind of set the scene for us? So what are some of your clients achieving in terms of visitor numbers and revenue? Because you've got some really impressive stats around that.
Yeah, so I'd like to think that, our clients are kind of bucking the trend, looking at, so some of them are at 10 to 15% above pre-pandemic levels. Some of them are at pre-pandemic levels. But then again, some of them are below because we've just got them on board, and our job is to convert them and increase them back to where they were or beyond. And on our aim is always, let's take them beyond where they were. So yeah, whenever I sit down with a client, I always look at what their targets are. Then I set my own internal target of usually 10 to 15% above that, and say, and navigate, we craft the strategy to over deliver, so that, classic aim for the moon, at least you'll land amongst the stars strategy. If we aim big, do a good work there, then it massively mitigates the risk that you're not going to hit the target. But invariably we go beyond it, and it works. And what I do find fascinating at the moment is we're kind of feeling that because of the lack of, I suppose, impetus behind rolling out big marketing campaigns and investing in marketing, because people are being very conservative with budgets. That does mean the people that we're working for, they're flying, so they're growing well, because actually if people are holding back and we're going all in, then our clients are getting the visitor numbers and the revenue. It's just, it's just stats, isn't it? It's just going to be the case. We make more noise, people see our clients more, they visit them more.
That sounds really simple when you say it, and quite straightforward.
No, I know.
The listeners that are listening to this podcast are at all different sizes, so attractions of all sizes, and some of them may be at those lower levels right now and starting to be, slightly concerned about what summer may bring or may not bring. What would be your advice to attraction marketers that are kind of struggling to focus on what the priorities should be right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this isn't rocket science at all. It's quite straightforward. The very first thing attractions marketers should do is ultimately just deliver really good digital advertising. It's the most straight line method for visitors. It really is. When I say digital marketing, yeah, it's digital advertising activity. That needs to be good. It should be the best. It is the creme de la creme of all marketing activities that can be done with immediate impact that's completely measurable and transparent. For me, it doesn't really make sense to invest budget anywhere else. Even projects that I work on independently of Navigate, my own initiatives or innovations, as we might talk about a bit later, we would only do digital on that. Why would we ever think of anything else? There's just simply no requirement. And we can't track it, we can't measure it, we can't optimize. So the very first thing any attraction should do is, what are they doing on digital, and just do that more and do it better. And yet, despite the pandemic, believe it or not, I still speak to some attractions that direct 80% of their marketing budget towards traditional marketing, print, leaflet, bus shelters, this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And I can't rationalize it in my head. I don't understand. It does not compute.
That's a huge percentage. That's really surprising. I mean, I can understand some of their budget going towards it, but 20%, not 80%.
Yeah, and so when you were talking about the growth in visitor numbers that we're delivering for a lot of clients, it's because we charge into executing a digital advertising and marketing strategy immediately, and it has immediate effects. Literally, month one. It's yeah, that's what I would do, and it doesn't matter what size you are, because I would say if you're above 50,000, then you can implement what I'm talking about to the scale that it's required. If you're at 100,000, then 100,000 visitors per annum, then it's viable. Anything above that, you have got the visitor numbers and the marketing investment and resource to deliver a highly effective activity that will give you the visitor numbers you want.
There's something else that you've been talking about quite a lot recently, which I am a big fan of. I've quoted elements of this blog piece in numerous talks and numerous pieces online. It's about positioning an attraction as essential. You spoke about it brilliantly at the Alva Heads of Marketing meeting back prior to December. And it was perfectly timed, because at that point, attraction marketeers, we knew, were looking at maybe a 15 to 20% cut in their budgets this year because of the cost of living crisis. And having to look at kind of smarter ways to use their budget and smarter ways to talk about why their attraction is somewhere that people need to visit, not just want to visit. Can you talk us through a couple of those pointers from that blog piece? Because I just think it's so invaluable to our listeners to hear about this.
Sure. So yeah, this came about actually, and credit where credit's due. Richard Huntington, who's a strategy director at Saatchi & Saatchi, first put this forward when I was presenting at an event with him, and we spoke about this, and he suggested that attractions need to position themselves as essential. So all I did was, ride on his coattails and say, all right, well, this is how attractions do position themselves as essential. So we've come up with various ways of saying, this is how you should communicate in order to position yourself as essential. And if you'll permit me to rewind for a moment, the reason we need to position an attraction as essential is because when reviewing the likely economic impact of the cost of living crisis on, visitors, individuals' pockets, they're ultimately going to be cutting everything apart from essential activities. This was the theory 6 months ago when we were talking about this. And, to a certain degree, we have seen this. So that's why we need to be essential, because it's almost the only ring-fence budget in a consumer's pocket where they go, okay, that's essential. I'm not giving that up. Yeah, how does an attraction do this? How does it position itself as essential? And there's a number of different ways of doing it. As you've said, you can look at the blog that we did, that we created for it. And it's really interesting. I think one of the nice ways of maybe picking one good strategy of this apart is making memories. Because our friend Bernard Donahue at Alva regularly highlights that, you know, attractions are so important because they are these places that create memories, they create moments for people. And I absolutely agree with Bernard, of course. But what I think converts a memory to something essential is time. You know, as a grandparent, it's not about you as a grandparent not being there forever. It's about, as a grandparent, those kids aren't going to be little kids forever. They're going to be, you know, horrible, moody, grumpy, smelly teenagers before you know it. Apologies to any teenagers listening. I'm sure you are not all like that. I certainly wasn't when I was a teenager. You know, you've got to just look at it a slightly different way. And it's essential, therefore, for a grandparent to spend time with that little 4-year-old, because she's not going to be 4 next year. She's not going to be 4 in a few years' time. Don't worry about where you are. So surely a day out and a memory with a grandkid at the age of 4, that's such a different experience at a kid age 7, because I've got both, which is so different again from a kid age 9, because I've got one of them too. And, you know, it's kind of like memories are memories at different times as well. And this timing that you have here, you know, you really need to try and leverage that. And if you can do that, then yeah, it's essential, isn't it? You want to spend time with them young.
That's the one that really hit home for me, actually. So I have a young daughter. She's coming up for 2. My grandparents, we've had her a lot later in life. Her grandparents are a little bit older, so they're 71 this year, and they feel this. So they feel that they have got a set amount of time to make and form those memories with that little girl. They're already planning. She's not even 2 yet. They've already said to me, by the time she's 5, we're going to Disney. This is what's happening. We're going here and we're going to make this big memory because we need to do that. My dad needs to do that before he's 80. He was like, I can't do it any later than that. So, you know, they've got this time limit on these things. The other thing that really struck me about that blog was how you position what things cost. So there was an element in there about making comparisons between everyday things and what you'd actually spend on an attraction. So I made a comparison between paying, I think it was something like £7 to park all day at this absolutely incredible attraction that has the most fantastic kids play area and family area, and you can make all of these wonderful memories. You know, take your kids' bike there, teach them to ride. £7 is 2 flat whites. Save yourself 2 flat whites a week and you can go and do this amazing thing. And I thought that was a really strong message to push out for attractions.
Yeah, I think that we've got to get across a value message. Again, as everybody's talking about this, I think that the marketing speak that you'll hear me say, it's not new stuff for anybody, I imagine, that listens to this, because everybody that listens to this is good at, you know, it is good at marketing. They've got a sense of the understanding of the principles and the concepts here. So demonstrating value for an attraction visit is essential. And a lot of attractions, not all, by the way, but a lot of attractions do deliver fantastic value. And so you really need to kind of leverage that, because yeah, we spend a lot more money on a lot less stuff than memories, than these moments and these shared experiences.
We do. We need a good reminder of where our money's being spent and where it's important.
Yeah, and again, I think there was a really good Expedia advert around this. It's like, you know, by memories, not stuff, kind of thing. It was really good.
Okay, number one thing that all attraction marketers need to focus on for 2023.
Yes. So I've been thinking about how to kind of, you know, distill this into one thing for you. And I believe it is to generate revenue digitally. 3 words. Bear with me on this whilst I unpick it a little bit. We've got to generate revenue digitally. Now, that actually covers a lot of different things. First of all, it covers digital marketing, investing in digital to drive visitors, donations, memberships, whatever you want. That will help you generate revenue digitally. But more than that, your online shop and e-commerce, growing the revenue from that, which many people became pretty good at during the pandemic. That's generating revenue digitally. You can sell digital products. Many membership programs from organizations might be a magazine, which will probably immediately go into the recycling. What about digital products? So you can develop these digital products that will be essential. That is, again, generating revenue digitally. Coupled with this generating revenue is also kind of growing profits, because you can actually deliver a lot of your functions now with technology in a really good way. We know how stretched attractions marketing departments are, how much work attractions marketers actually do on a daily basis, creating content here, coming up with a strategy there, firefighting this, solving that problem over there. It's crazy. When I look at the volume of work that attractions marketers do, it is massive. There aren't any coasters in this industry. They're working really, really hard, and they need to use technology to make their jobs easier, or not even make their jobs easier, so they can elevate the work they do rather than scrambling around doing a little bit here or little bits there. We should be using ChatGPT to create attractions marketing content continually for our attraction. We should be using really good email automation to solve that. And there's so much good tech out there that this will save you money and, again, grow profits, which is generating revenue for you. Finally, as part of all of this, all these bits, because they're all digital and it's all tech, they should all connect. You should be able to track, you should be able to look at this digital ecosystem you've created and understand how it interlinks, and then how you can optimize that conversion. And again, some of the bigger conversations we're having with, some leading kind of attractions in the UK are very much about, right, we've got this area that's doing this digitally. We've got this digital activity pulling this in here. We've got an opportunity to increase efficiency by implementing some tech here. How does this all work together? And that's exciting. That's what we should do. And that is probably very, very daunting for smaller attractions. And that doesn't matter. It's daunting, yeah. And you have to face it head on, because it is only going in that direction. I guarantee it. And you will not be here in 5 or 10 years if you do not do this. It's that simple. It's inevitable, to quote Agent Smith.
However scary it might seem, it's okay, because Navigate have just launched something that is actually going to help attraction marketeers perfectly with this, which is your attraction marketing playbook.
I was not expecting your segue there. And the thing that's quite interesting about that, I wasn't expecting it. So I thought you were going to disagree with me, which I was getting well excited about. Yes. Okay, let's do it. Thumbs up, Kelly. Let's do
this. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with
right.
this. I think you've nailed that advice there. But I think what you said about it being a really daunting task, I think it can actually be a daunting task for larger agencies as well, not larger attractions as well, actually, because let's face it, marketing teams are small. Regardless of the size of agencies, they are really small, and they wear lots of hats, and they juggle a lot of different things.
Yeah, they're small, and also the industry. Well, not the industry. Our society doesn't have the digital skills and capabilities that are required to capitalize on the technology we currently have. They're not available. We've not trained these people yet, and those people that do have those skills are in incredibly short supply comparatively. I was at the ABTA Travel Marketing Conference last week, and there's this company that specializes in travel recruitment called Gail Kenny, and I've kind of known them a bit, and they're good, and they gave a really decent analysis of this digital skills gap, and they just say, yeah, there's a huge issue. Anybody in digital marketing, digital advertising, CRO, CRM, all of these skills are just in desperate need across the industry. We just don't have the candidates. We don't have people doing this because they're all taken. So it's a skills issue as well, which makes it really daunting, because there aren't the people with that knowledge. But you're right. I suppose that's why we kind of created the visitor attraction growth playbook, in that it's a decent sized document, 50 or 60 pages, that really just breaks down the kind of 5 or 6 core activities you should be looking at to grow your visitors and revenue this year. And yeah, we've literally just said all the things we think you need to do.
It's a lovely playbook, actually, and it's a really good thing to just kind of take away for an hour or so, just kind of work your way through, work on it, put your plan together, but then come back and revisit as well. We're going to put a link to this in the show notes. So anyone listening, don't worry, you don't need to go and find it. Literally just go to the show notes and you'll be able to download it for there, because actually it's free to download for anyone for a period of time, isn't it? Which is lovely.
Yeah, I had a
very
battle.
Generous.
Oh, well, it is very generous. I had a battle with my my marketing manager about this, and he's like, "No, Anne, we're not even going to email gate it." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean we're not even going to email gate it?" He went, "No, we're not. We just put it on a website, click, download, done." I'm like, "All right, mate, you're cool." So there we go.
You lovely, lovely, good people. You
don't thank me. Thank Ollie Reed, our head of marketing. It's him. It's not me.
Thanks, Ollie. You are a lovely person, actually, Ollie.
He's very.
But talking of loveliness, let's talk a little bit about Navigate as an agency, because you have got a really good ethos in the way that you grow your agency, the way that you hire, the way that the way that you run your organization, and that kind of comes through really beautifully in the fact that you've recently gained B Corp status. Just give us a little bit of a snippet of what B Corp means for our listeners that aren't aware of what this is.
B Corp is ultimately a movement of businesses that have kind of agreed that the nature of doing business needs to be better, and therefore we assign certain standards on ourselves in doing that business. So, for example, we have to have specific environmental policies. We have to show improvement in that. We have to have certain culture. We have to have a certain mentality towards our team and treat our team in a certain way. It's governance, it's environmental impact, it's social impact, and it's rigorous. It takes 2 years to become a B Corp, and we literally got it a few weeks ago. And yeah, it's great to be one. I mean, if you look at some of the, I wouldn't say coolest, but I think they're cool, because that's what I think cool is, being successful and being good. For me, that's cool. So if you look at some serious brands, people like Patagonia and what have you, the kind of, the darlings of a good business, invariably you'll find that a lot of them are B Corps or on that journey. And yeah, we kind of applied 2 years ago, and unfortunately, about a year ago or so, there's a huge spike, which made it a lot take a bit longer for that to happen. But I'm very proud of being a B Corp, and at the same time, it's not an external thing for me. I think quite a few people use it as we're a B Corp, so buy something from us. That's a bit ridiculous in my opinion. I think that it's about saying, well, listen, going forwards, business needs to do better. It needs to be better. It needs to hold itself to higher standards. There are multiple ways businesses can be profitable and make money. And all I'm saying is, on top of that, you need to apply being good with it. And I think it's one of the fundamental requirements we have to impose on ourselves, because, we won't have a planet in about 200 years time if we don't. I mean, we will have a planet, we just probably won't be very happy on it, and it won't be very happy.
I know this is, you've talked about it from a business perspective, but I know that this is a bit of a passion area for you as well, especially around kind of sustainability and being outdoors in nature. And actually, I'll put this in the show notes, but Ant he emailed me a picture. He emailed it to me. He doesn't hate email really. He emailed me this wonderful picture of himself this week out on a walk whilst listening to the podcast. It was such a great photo. I might share this photo. I'll put it on Twitter. It was a fabulous photo. It was outside in nature. But look, this is you. Like, you are. What you talk about, it's you personified. Everything that you love is all around nature and being outside and being connected to the environment and being sustainable, and that really does come across in the way that you run Navigate, but also the personal projects that you have. Now, you mentioned earlier that you have your own kind of innovative projects on the go. you've got something quite exciting to talk to us about today, which it's a podcast exclusive, people. He's not talked about this anywhere, and Ant talks a lot. He really does. This is a new thing. He's not discussed this with anyone, so I want to hear about it.
Well, I have discussed it with a few people. It's not been broadcast, Kelly.
What?
Some of the people listening to this podcast, I know who they are, and I know them, and you know them, and we know them. And actually, they're going to be like, "Wait a minute, he spoke to me about that." So I want to caveat. Some people know,
okay,
but no, it's not been announced on the industry yet. It's not been broadcast. We've not launched it yet. Yeah, it's exciting. As you can tell, I've already started increasing the speed of my conversation. So, yeah, do you want to just dive in?
I want you to dive in because I did know about this prior to this conversation, and I'm really excited about it. This is something that I am going to use, and I tell you what, I'm going to use it daily. So I'm really excited about it. I need you to share it with the podcast listeners.
All right, you're so kind. Okay, so yeah, we've created what we think is quite a disruptive business for the industry. And when I say disruptive, well, yeah, in a really, really positive way. I consider it a conservation technology business, is how I see it in my head, is what it is. And in its simplest form, it's a mobile app. But what we've done with our app, Wildling, is we've created an app that collates all of the UK's great nature places in one format, in one place. And we've geolocated that information so that you, Kelly, can go to this app on a Saturday morning when it's a lovely day or not a lovely day, whatever, because nature's ready, whatever the weather. You can go to your app and you go, what am I going to do today? And you can look at it and it'll geolocate all the nature places that you can go and visit near you. It gives you the facilities information, the visitor information that you'd need, the opening times, gives you directions. And then there's more. So in the first instance, it's a free to download app. We want everybody in the UK using this. We want it downloaded everywhere. We've got a pretty mega network of people that are already going to broadcast this when we launch. I think that the total email database size is about 50 million people so far going to get emailed this by our partners. Yeah, it's a bit mad.
But email's okay, folks, not rubbish.
yeah, it's a bit mad. Oh, and also I came up with this idea with Sir Tim Smith. So Tim, who created Eden Project, it wouldn't be here without him. You know, me and him have talked about this for 2 years. We've been working on it together. We've been speaking about it for 2 years, and he's guided me a lot on where we go with this. So yeah, he's a legend, and he's my, he's kind of my industry hero, really. But yeah, so myself and Tim just thought it's collectivizing nature. It's all these great nature places you can go, and it's solving a problem that I had, Kelly. 6 years ago, I moved to Dartmoor from Bristol, and I wanted to find out all these great places near me, and I had to go to about 20 different websites, and the information then was, a bit rubbish on some of them. Some of them had images, some of them didn't. Some of them had visitor information. I couldn't tell. So this way, I've got my app. Wherever I am in the country, I can find nature reserves from the RSPB, English Heritage, National Trust, Forestry England, all the good all these great nature organizations with nature places. And 20 seconds more, our aim here is to put £1 billion into nature over the next 15 to 20 years. £1 billion into protecting native nature in this country. And the way we're going to do this is the way that it should be done, because people won't care, they won't protect what they haven't experienced. That's Attenborough's line, and it's true. So we want to get them into nature, and when they're there, because they've used our app to get there, we're going to be able to actually communicate with them, given the information of that specific place that they are, but also suggest they might want to donate to help protect that place. And we can do it when they're actually in the environment, or just shortly after they've returned. It's not, a random email on a Wednesday evening when you've not been to a forest for, 3 weeks. It's when you're there, when you're having that time, we're going to be able to prompt you to, tap to love nature. And then send those funds out to the fantastic nature organizations that we have in this country to help them continue their good work. So yeah, 1 billion, 15 to 20 years, that's what we want to do.
It's such a good idea. It's such a good idea. I love it. I'm genuinely buzzing about this. So this is all of the lovely things that I like to do. And I think like you kind of, what's on your doorstep, but you don't know enough of what's on your doorstep. We're really lucky. We live just outside Cambridge. We've got 3 or 4 National Trust places around us that we spend a lot of time. But also we spend a lot of time there, right? You're looking for new things and you don't always know the first place to go. You might kind of know some of the bigger things that are around. We've got Thetford Forest, 45 minutes that way, and I don't know, Broxbourne Woods, another 40 minutes that way. But what really is here, and what can I do to support these brilliant things and keep them moving and keep them keep them conserving the natural environments that are around us? It would be something that I genuinely would use. And I can't believe no one's done it. It's one of those ideas that you go, does this not exist? Wow.
There's a reason nobody's done it. It's because it's been a pain in the arse, to be honest.
A labour of love.
Getting all the content, getting it all done. There's a reason it's not been done, and it's because it's a hell of a lot of legwork. But there's just so many beneficiaries of this that I'm really, really happy about. First of all, everyday people thinking, what can I do today? Just, all right, we'll go there, get outside, connect with nature. We know it's better for them. We know it makes us healthy. We know it gives us perspective. We know that, what's going on in various different parts of the world doesn't need to affect our day right now today. We know we can go away and escape from it all. And it's not always, Netflix and bills and this, that, and the other. There's more to the world, and it gives us perspective. Everyday people. But the challenge people have is always, it just seems really difficult for them. When I speak with a lot of the organizations that we do through Wildling, it's really interesting. The number of people that will go on a day out to nature, go to a forestry England place or a woodland trust location or somewhere like that, park up in a car park, and then sometimes just stay in the car park or have their picnic like 10 meters from their car. The distance people go from the point that they actually get into these nature places is very, very small. Whereas me, I park in and just zoom out. I'm like, right, how far from this car park point can I get and go and explore? But there's a fear. It doesn't feel easy. It feels unnatural. This is how ironic that being in nature feels unnatural to us. And so our app needs to do one thing. It just needs to make nature easy for people. And that's what it's doing.
It's a really wonderful example.
As well, of course, protecting it, because we'll want people to donate afterwards.
Totally.
But yeah, in the final point I'll make on it, Kelly, because I can talk, so I know you've got me on this one. I'm sorry. I think it's also going to be pretty big for domestic tourism in general, because you're right, on your doorstep you can find out what it is. But do you know what, Kelly? Maybe you've always wanted to visit Norwich. Maybe you've always wanted to visit there, and you're
one of my favourite places.
There you go. I'll get an Airbnb, and then I'll use the app and I'll find all these great places around me. The fact is, wherever you are in the country, you're going to find these places. Are with the volume of places we have on here, you're never going to be more than a few miles away from a really great nature place that you can go and visit. So again, it's free. It's for everybody. Final point. I was speaking with Joss Croft, who's the CEO of UK Inbound, the other week, and Joss is a great guy. And he said, from an inbound tourism point of view, he thinks it's going to be really big as well. He thinks that people coming into the UK using this app to explore our natural environments, it would be fantastic. And one of our clients actually does bring about 2 million people into the UK per annum. And we know from the analysis and research that we've done that some of the primary reasons, particularly when entering the northern part of the UK, is for nature. And a lot of them, head up to Scotland and around Yorkshire. But, one of the draws, which I was a little bit surprised about, one of the draws of near European visitors into the UK is nature and natural environments and wildlife. It's great for inbound tourism as well as domestic tourism, not to mention it's making us all healthier.
That's
Boom,
really
boom, boom.
interesting, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
having everything in one place. I hadn't thought about how useful that would be to tourists to the UK. You know, they haven't got to, like you were doing, spending hours on 20 different websites trying to find all the different things around you. They literally go to one app and it's all there.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
genius.
listen, we're not stopping in the UK, Kelly. I'll tell you that.
I mean, I knew this was coming.
Yeah. We're not stopping here because I want to use this app for me when, and I don't really know much about France. So I want to get over to France and I want to be able to use my app to find all the fantastic nature places that I can go and, experience there, and in Germany and in Spain and so on and so forth.
What I really love about this is that it's a wonderful example of it's the combination of the passions that you have and the skill set that you have in the agency as well. And it's an absolutely perfect example of what you can do to support nature, but what you can also do to help the attractions and the tourism organizations that you work with as well. So it's brilliant. How can we find out more about it? So it's not launched yet. How do we find out more about it? How can our listeners get involved?
Well, I'm pretty confident that when it's launched, any people that are connected to Skip the Queue podcast will probably get a lovely email from Kelly saying it's here to download. So that solves our audience here. It will be ready soon. I mean, it'll just be available on the App Store. It's called Wildling, and we're going to be there in a few weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, look, what we'll do, we'll put a link to, as soon as it's launched, we'll put a link in the show notes again. And yeah, look, listeners, you'll definitely hear from me about this. I'll be all over social media with it. Maybe email, because I don't mind a bit of email, but definitely Twitter. Oh, yeah. Maybe some LinkedIn. This is brilliant. So this might be an interesting question for you, because we normally end the podcast by asking our guests to recommend a book, but you don't read that much. So do you have something that you would like to share with us, whether it's a book, a podcast, an audio book? What would you like to share with our listeners?
Do you know what? I will recommend a book. And to end and probably just, correct the blemish on my character, Kelly, I do read a lot, but I hate it. So that's the difference. And I'm happy admitting it. There you go. It feels slightly sadistic in the end, really, reading, but there you go. The book I would recommend is called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and I think it's amazing. It's probably my favorite book.
Reason why?
I mean, Naval Ravikant's a bit of a legend. I mean, he's incredibly successful, but his book is really succinct, short advices. It's a collection, an expansion of tweets that he created over time. And he splits the book into a 50-50. 50% is kind of wealth creation and all that kind of stuff. And the other 50% is happiness. And it just expands these points, but it's just so digestible. Each little nugget is, oh yeah, we should do that. That I should do that. So I love it. Just it, I do not need 50 pages to tell me something when 5 words will do. And so I love it for that reason. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. It's really good.
This is a book absolutely for me, and has not been recommended on this podcast as well. We're building up such a great list of recommendations from our guests. That's a good one. I like that one. Okay, I'm going to put that on my list. Listeners, if you want to win a copy of that book, you know what to do. Head over to our Twitter account, retweet this episode announcement with the words "I want Ant's book," and you might be in with a chance of winning it. This has been such a great chat. Thank you. You've given such good advice to our listeners. We will put all of your contact details in the show notes. So if any of our listeners want to get in touch and talk about some of the things we've discussed today, I know that you're always super happy to talk to people. We will put the marketing playbook download in the show notes too. So honestly, go and get a copy of that. I'm sure that Ollie's not going to let you have it for free for much longer. So grab it while you can before you have to give him your email.
If you don't mind, Kelly, I'll reinforce your point about always happy to speak to people, but particularly happy to speak to people that are in a bit of a fix. I'm more than happy with a half-hour chat saying to guys, do you know what, we need to do this, and this is where I would go if I were you, just if it helps.
There you go. Look, they're such good guys. Look at them.
I've learned this from my business partner, Simon. He is the nicest guy. Simon Jones is the nicest guy. I'm, not very nice compared to him, but he's just super nice. So.
Yes. Well, no,
there's a lovely industry, there's a lot of nice people, isn't there? Which is great, which is why a lot of us here probably know each other. We've spoken to each other and we like each other. It's
a lovely place to be, as is Skip the Queue, and now you're Skip the Queue alumni. So welcome to the even lovelier little segment within it. So thank you. It's been lovely to chat. You're a superstar.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find us. And remember to follow us on Twitter for your chance to win the books that have been mentioned. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese, a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcriptions from this episode and more over on our website, rubbercheese.com/podcast.